all of you co-presenters, which means that all of you will have the ability to, um, um, well, actually, there's no reason to be switching between presentations. We could just keep one presentation up. But how does that work in terms of advancing? Does everyone then have the ability to advance the presentation?
I'm not sure. We can just have them reshare the screen. Well,
no, that seems like a waste of time because it's going to be one presentation up the whole time.
Can't you give remote control or something like that?
But can you give remote control to everyone, or do you need to do it person by person? Because if you can't, if it's person by person, then I mean, every time Rowan and I have done this in the past, we've just had one of us present, and I think that's the way to do it, is to just say, you say advance when you want it to advance. Because I really think Zoom doesn't, I mean, I think because it would need to be done one by one, and that would just be a waste of time to do all that transferring and stuff. It would make it extraordinarily clunky. Which is, yeah, we're doing something today that we've never actually quite done before, so it's a little bit of a new thing. So yeah, we'll have, everyone will be in shadow. And
Okay, okay.
Should we keep these doors open or closed?
All right.
Okay. Success.
I assume that everyone's ready. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, well, it's my great pleasure to introduce the Environmental Communications class of 2020. As you folks know, this team has been working on various projects associated with the implementation of Environmental Dashboard in Oberlin, and also with a little bit of work in Cleveland, you'll see, but that work also is quite relevant to work that we're doing in Oberlin. And I think everyone here today is familiar with the Dashboard project, familiar with the fact that the city is contributing to the dashboard screens in town. And so without further ado, the way this is going to work is that each of the 4 groups is going to tell us a little bit about their plans for the semester, what they're planning on doing to advance their particular section of the project over the next couple months. They'll tell you a little bit about what they've already done, but the emphasis is on what they plan to do over the course of this semester. And our goal is for you to listen to what they're saying and give them feedback. Obviously, as community members, as people who have a particular connection with the city of Oberlin, you have deep insights into the community of Oberlin, and we want you to listen carefully to what they have to say, and then share your thoughts on their strategies and proposals with them afterwards. I'm going to ask that that you hold off on questions and comments until we've presented all 4 of these proposals, and then we will open it up. So if you want to jot down notes on what you're hearing, that might be a good idea, so we can give these folks feedback afterwards. So the list of project titles here is in the order of presenters, and I'm not going to take any more time away from this presentation. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our first group, which is going to talk a little bit about promoting the community calendar and newsletter and volunteer opportunities in the city of Oberlin. So Anoka and Thayer, the stage is yours.
Great, thank you very much, and thanks for having us on. My name is Thayer, and obviously my partner is Anoka. All right, Oberlin is a small town where local events are the heartbeat of the community. Big Parade, Illumination Night, and Chalk Walk are popular, well-attended events that positively impact the town. But what about the virtual pumpkin contest this week, or the new art show at Fava Gallery, or the weekly jazz forum that is happening in Tappan Square? How might Oberlin be impacted if all of its events were seen by its residents? How might Oberlin and its businesses prosper financially if more people spent time downtown? We hope to work with the Oberlin Business Partnership, the city, as well as business partners and faith groups to promote the ED community calendar in an effort to answer these fundamental questions. All right, Rowan, next slide, please. So what is happening this week in Oberlin? If you're looking for a centralized community hub to find out what events are taking place in Oberlin over the next couple of weeks, would you immediately check the Environmental Dashboard website to see what is happening on the community calendar? That answer is probably no, and that is the key issue that we are hoping to change with our project. The Environmental Dashboard community calendar has actually been in existence since 2017, but is yet to become a popularized resource that many OBs or townspeople use. Including the free e-newsletter only has 250 subscribers in a town of 10,000 people. So what is the ED community calendar? Well, it consists of 6 different components. The first being a sequential display of counter event content that is explicitly designed for ED signage downtown, as well as an interactive online calendar within the environmentaldashboard.org's website. And that calendar is also embeddable into other organizations' websites. There's a public interface where community members can post events, announcements, and volunteer opportunities, as well as a weekly newsletter that is sent out to subscribers that includes a summary description of events, and that subscription is free. Finally, there's also an administrative interface where events, announcement, and volunteer opportunities are approved before they are shared with the public. And listed below, those photos are of Environmental Dashboard social media, which we're trying to separate between Oberlin community-based events and Environmental Dashboard content. All right, next slide, please. And I'll hand it over to Anoka.
All right, so on our screen right now, we have two screen grabs from what the current community calendar.
Hey, Anoka, your mic is not giving us enough volume. I can barely hear you. I'm not sure what you need to do, but I'm just going to stop you until you get your volume right. Yeah, say something when you think you have your volume adjusted. Anoka? Where's Anoka right now? Because I think she's talking and
she's with Elizabeth and she's not talking. They're figuring it out, I believe.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, she's having some issues with her mic and Wi-Fi, so she's using Elizabeth's computer. Okay, you guys are unmuted. Can you try talking? No dice?
Under the mute button, there's you can choose what speaker system you're using, whether it's a microphone or your computer. And maybe you can just switch to your computer. Again, the little caret to the right of the mic icon.
Hello, can you hear me now?
It's pretty faint. No, not really.
Okay.
Have you tried
Here,
switching your?
how's this? I put out.
This
Yes,
is good.
yes,
Here you
much
go.
better.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so on screen right now, what we have are two screen grabs from the current community calendar. On the left is what you would see when you first were to click on the calendar, and it kind of just gives you what current events are and upcoming events. And then if you were to click on the view full calendar, this is what you get on the right, which is kind of a nice overview of what's happening over the entire month. All right, could you advance, please? Okay, so what we're hoping with our community calendar project is to increase engagement with the community calendar as well as the newsletter. Currently, as we said before, there's only around 250 subscribers to the newsletter in a town of around 8,000 people, and we definitely think that this is something we could promote and get a good amount of new users by the end of this project. And on that, we also want to increase the amount of people that are actually uploading events, because there's constantly a good amount of things going on, but they're not always present on the calendar. For example, like the tap and bandstand that's happening every weekend would be a great event to upload to the calendar, and it's a great way of getting both Oberlin college students and Oberlin residents to engage with the town. And in that vein, increased event attendance, especially, we're trying to develop a more active and connected community, especially in a time like now where people may feel more isolated and due to COVID, having events that they can look forward to and connect with one another is really great, even if they're virtual. Could you advance, please? Yeah, so we are hoping to use material promotion such as stickers and t-shirts. If you want to look at Thayer, he is currently wearing Environmental Dashboard t-shirt. So having some sort of limited t-shirt giveaway would kind of capitalize on the Child Unity's idea of like limited availability and scarcity. and also having posters that we would place in really large areas that are used by Oberlin residents, such as the Oberlin Public Library or even Wilder Hall, where people could potentially see a QR code where they could scan and view the community calendar and subscribe to it. We also want to use existing social media such as Facebook and Instagram. The environmental dashboards social Facebook group already has around 530 people. So if we were able to use that, we could already get a good amount of subscribers. But there's also some really good existing resources, especially some email lists with in faith groups and the Oberlin Business Partnership, among other things. And Nextdoor, and it's also a really good resource where people talk about, what they need. Again, there's another Facebook group called "What Do You Have? What Do You Need?" which is used by almost 1,000 people in Oberlin, where they just talk about their necessities. So I think these are existing promotional ventures for us and ways that we could really promote the community calendar and gain new subscribers. Could you please advance? Yeah, and on that note, here's our QR code. And if you want to use your phone right now, you could scan that and subscribe to the community calendar. It is free. And that is it for us.
You're muted, Professor Pearson.
Thank you so much. I think one of the things we're going to do for our presentation on Thursday that we should talk about following this is think about how one group can set up for another group to introduce the next group. So I'll go ahead and just do that now and say our second group is focused on creating location-specific content for the different dashboards installed in the town. But ideally, I think we'll have each group kind of introduce the next group so that I don't need to be interjecting and it's a smoother overall transition. But you guys go ahead.
Hello. First, I'd like to introduce myself and my collaborators, and then some of what our project is. My name is Amanda Salmons, and presenting with me today are John Elrod and Reed Bobranicki. We're working together to expand the location-specific content that is displayed on the 15 environmental dashboard screens in businesses and other public institutions in the city of Oberlin. We'll further get into what constitutes location-specific content, but generally we're talking about visual displays that show viewers the positive goals and actions of, say, businesses that they're going to in town. Advance, please. On this slide here, we have listed all of the organizations whose screens we intend to work with in some capacity. As you can see, there are a variety of institutions represented by Dashboard, and they all use their screens to varying degrees right now. So some will require more attention than others. Advance, please. Now I'll hand it over to John, who will speak some on the background of our project.
Hello, I'm John Elrod. And we have a few clear challenges and opportunities that we can use to improve the environmental dashboards in these many locations. So while many of the dashboard screens have made an impact on the community so far, there's still ways they can be improved and updated to reach a wider amount of people in the city of Oberlin. One way we can do this is to put mission statements that are specific to the location of each screen and kind of express how the organization or business relates to the community as a whole and what their purpose is. And then people will be able to understand better what the organization is doing for them. Another issue with some screens so far is the visuals and how coherent and cohesive they are. So the flow and order of the slides can be improved to be made more visually appealing, as well as more cohesive and eye-catching. Another way the dashboards can be updated to be more effective and reach a wider amount of people is increase interactivity. This can draw more attention and people will engage with the screens more. So one idea we had with this was integrating mobile controls through an app that can be downloaded to mobile devices. And people will be able to select the specific slides on the screens. For example, if they want to look at the mission statement or the other partner organizations that have dashboards or like environmental related slides, this can be done through this mobile app. So yeah, overall content relating to the location's connection to the community, as well as the improvement of the visuals of the slides and increased interactivity can really make a difference in the dashboards reaching a wider amount of people. Advance.
So now to speak a little bit on our desired outcomes for our project. Our central goal in everything we're doing is to create location-specific content that will increase community awareness and identity among people in Oberlin. We're going to try to use the screens as a point of contact with local organizations. We hope that this new content will give residents insight into the ways that the places they frequent play into a resilient, sustainable Oberlin. As for what that will look like, we've listed our intended products here. Firstly, we're making a slide for every location that succinctly displays its mission. Then we will produce some generic slides that will be part of the location-specific content program. This includes template slides, as we have dubbed them, that essentially, of course I've gotten out of order because I didn't practice enough. Because this is a practice, I'm just going to be straightforward. I got out of order. I'm going back.
Amanda, just take a deep breath and relax. It's absolutely fine. This is a practice, and it's all cool. Don't stress about it. It's all good.
All right. Among these generic slides is a slide promoting the upcoming interactivity feature, encouraging viewers to get the phone app that will allow them to use it to change what they're looking at and explore the content available for other specific locations in town. Along with this, other organizations' presentations will be accessible, which will be displayed on an All Environmental Dashboards Partners slide that we're planning on making. We're also intending to create slide templates that organizations can use to easily display things that are timely but may not make sense on the community calendar, such as recent organizational highlights or reminders and notices, or in the case of maybe IGA, what thing they're doing this week that could highlight their goal to be a community grocer. Then, along with the generic slides, the most involved projects that we will be making come in the form of a handful of collaborative slides. For those screen owners who would like to, we plan to include their quotes on their institution in the locations slideshow. Then there will also be some more information style slides for locations that need more development and lack in either community voices or existing content before our intervention. If you move on to the next slide, there's a good example of this in an already existing slide from the hotel, wherein they discuss how they use geothermal energy in the hotel. And I consider that an example of the information style slide as opposed to a community voices or a template. Now, whenever Reed is ready, because I know he had to move, he can talk a little bit about our approach.
Don't worry, I'm in the elevator now. Sorry. Yes, so our approach is separated into 3 different stages. First, we will begin by creating these mission slides, which will provide the different missions of, what the heck? Sorry, using the elevator now. Or was like, sorry, creating these mission slides for different locations and their missions, such as, for instance, the Oberlin Early Childhood Center, whose mission is nurturing healthy growth of young children. Then we shall also be creating template slides, as well as were already mentioned, so that certain locations can have more cohesive presentations that they create themselves, as John brought up, such as locations as the bridge, which have displayed interest, and also open communication with our partner businesses. That I'm sorry. I will leave.
Just hanging out.
I was doing a presentation, just a practice, not the real deal. I am sorry, guys. Sorry, what was I? The second stage. Second stage will be about collaborating further with our partner organizations, and so this will provide an opportunity for these organizations to communicate their wishes with us, and if there are any selective additions that they want to have us add on to these slides or anything, we can provide those. And then the third and final stage, will be the feedback and revision stage, where we shall have a review in the dashboard of work we have done, as well as review from our peers within this class, and have the final product ready. And thank you very much for, that is the end of our presentation, and now we shall hand it off to the next group.
Thank you so much, Reed. Firstly, how many of you guys have or know kids in Oberlin? How many of them know how to navigate through Environmental Dashboard? We're trying to fix that.
Yes, so the Environmental Dashboard was recently awarded a grant by the Green Edge Fund to develop and implement a sophisticated new monitoring system and display system in the new K through 5th grade school, which includes extensive sub-metering in over 20 different areas. So there's a need right now to provide educational content that will be able to take advantage of this awesome new system and further the education and outreach section of the City of Oberlin's Climate Action Plan.
Elizabeth, you're muted.
I forgot to unmute myself. Anyway, with all these points in mind, we believe that a creative and engaging way of responding to these developments is the creation of a picture book centered around the Environmental Dashboard. This book would target children grades K through 4th and engage them in STEM-based learning through a storyline about a water leakage at Oberlin Public Schools. By creating this book, we hope to provide Oberlin Public Schools with a valuable resource in educating the youth of tomorrow in the intricacies of the Environmental Dashboard. Advance.
Our primary challenge is closing the age gap in which viewers can actively engage with Environmental Dashboard. We want as many people to be able to access and understand ED display screens as possible. We have the opportunity to engage students in a creative STEM-based dialogue that asks broader questions and challenges the traditional A+B=C model. Current mainstream education is focused on getting from point A to point B with no questions asked. We want to engage readers in a creative problem solving for issues that don't have one simple answer. By doing this, we hope that students will both enjoy the storyline and lessons and also feel like a STEM education and the Environmental Dashboard are creative problem solving outlets and not just useful tools. Another opportunity we have is to familiarize students with the ED displays and the characters Wally and Flash. As previously stated, a big goal of ours is to improve the relationships between the students and Environmental Dashboard. By utilizing Wally and Flash, who are the fun, caring, and informative characters, we hope to help create a bond between them and the students that strengthens their connection to the Environmental Dashboard. Next, yeah.
As you've probably gathered from everything we said thus far, the main goal of this project is to create a picture book that introduces children to the basics of Environmental Dashboard and prepares them for a greater understanding of it later in their school careers. That said, more than that, our goal is to engage with children on a personal level and encourage them in STEM-related education pertaining to forming connections between their actions and environmental consequences. Our project will be successful if we complete a picture book, as well as a series of discussion questions that gets kids to understand the links between the Environmental Dashboard and their life at school. Hopefully, by creating this book, we will inspire the next generation to be more conscious of their environmental impact, as well as influence their parents to be more environmentally aware with their actions. Next.
So for our approach, we plan to draw heavily on the existing repository of environmental dashboard material that is already on the Environmental Dashboard website. Specifically, we plan to use the Oberlin Climate Action story slides for key scientific and explanatory content, as well as graphics. We plan to create a storybook through the step-by-step process of, first starting off big by establishing our overall plot through creating a rough outline of a storyboard, and then by kind of working to narrow that down to very specific dialogue and graphs for each page by page part of the plot. We then plan to use John as our point of contact, where we will plan to solicit feedback from the Oberlin Public School K through 4th grade educators once we have a solid initial draft of our book done. In developing the companion educational content outside of just the discussion questions, we also plan to comb through the instructor toolkit section of the environmental dashboard, making use of the existing lesson plans and activities and modifying them to fit our book. For example, we might come up with a new activity like Write to Flash or WALL-E, in which students might write questions that they have to write to WALL-E or Flash, and the teachers or future environmental studies class students can help answer them. Other potential activities might involve using the online components of the dashboard and building OS technology to answer questions, creating coloring pages, which include questions on how the students are going to conserve their water or electricity use, and so on. Next. So we wanted to give you guys the rough outline of what we're thinking about for our story so far. We plan to start off by establishing this story of how the kids in the elementary school in Oberlin helped to discover this leak and kind of save the school through noticing that WALL-E appeared sad on the dashboard. So we will start off by establishing that they did this and then really kind of explain what happened through using this funnel effect. So kind of zooming out to get the big picture of why the heck this is even important in the first place. Sort of what is climate change? Why is it important? We then plan to talk about how they can use it to, how they can use the environmental dashboard to solve this leak and read the graphs to kind of understand what's happening. So kind of the explanatory portion of the mechanics of using the dashboard. Then we kind of are going to go back to the story and see how that plays out. So discussing the trial and error process that the students used to try to solve the leak. So the different ways they modified their behavior and then kept looking back at the dashboard to see if it worked until they ultimately were able to be successful and save the school. We want to end the book by not only kind of explaining how these kids before them helped save the school, but then challenging the kids who are reading the book to ask them to consider what they can do to be sort of everyday heroes. So giving them some actions that they can take in their lives to kind of help WALL-E and Flash and help Oberlin and help the world, essentially.
Right now, we are still in the developmental stages of our book and have multiple questions, such as, is the example we chose to base our story around effective in communicating our message? Should we scrap out the story entirely and just make it a mystery? And how long do we want this book to be? As we continue to develop our story, we hope to answer these questions and more as we work together to make the best book we can for Oberlin and its children. Now, to another group working with education and children and teaching people things.
That is very right. Can you all hear me? Test 1, 2, 3.
You're a bit quiet.
How about now? Test 1, 2, 3. Is that better? Right. So I hope you got a chance to read the title slide. We're doing an instructional video partnering with the Great Lakes Science Center. We can go to the next one. So our nation faces a problem. Actually, our nation faces a bunch of problems, but for today, we're going to talk about a problem in the field of education, and that is that there's a lack of inquiry-based learning in K through 12 education. Inquiry-based learning is defined as a learning approach that highlights the student's role in education. It focuses on problem solving, investigative, and detective learning, as opposed to the lecture, when teachers simply lecture to the students what already is known. The inquiry-based learning model focuses on the unknown. Now, not only do scientists and engineers in the real world rely on problem solving for problems which the answer is not already known, but also there are countless studies that show the linkage between motivation and inquiry-based learning in the classroom. And we don't want our students to rot away. We want to inspire the next generation of scientists and engineers, because now more than ever do we need the scientists and engineers to step up to the plate and confront the world's challenges. Luckily, there is a solution though, which Gwen is going to talk a little more about.
Yeah,
You're good. Yeah.
Nick, turn off your sound. Okay. Assuming that this mic setup works, that is where we come to Building OS. It's a data collection and visualization tool accessible online that forms the basis of the data collection for Environmental Dashboard. It monitors electricity, water, natural gas in Great Lakes Science Center and several other buildings, including the new school that was already mentioned in Oberlin. There is massive educational potential for this thing, especially since the data it provides is in real time. It is relevant to local buildings. In many cases, the very buildings that people accessing it are in. And it can provide real-time feedback for the people using those buildings on how their own actions are affecting electricity, water, natural gas use, so the environment as a whole. Can you advance, please?
However, don't get your hopes up too fast, because this technology is extremely underutilized, and that's because, one, there's a learning curve. There are a few workshops that go over trying to get teachers compatible with the technology. However, from my experience going to one on Zoom, it was extremely underattended. I want to say less than 12 teachers were actually there. The information could be easily forgotten, and there is no involvement of students. So we could go to the next slide. What we plan to do, and we're proposing to create an instructional video that is COVID adapted. It can be shareable and sendable. That goes over the nuts and bolts of the technology to eliminate the learning curve for not only teachers, but students as well. In this video, we'll show viewers how to log in through Environmental Dashboard, access desired data with tables, graphs, heat maps, and then we can start to find analyses, and we can start to tell teachers what we can actually do with this data. Gwen?
However, the video is not going to be just a simple tutorial. It's going to be a tutorial in the framework of a narrative, which is why the thing is called Dashboard Detective in the first place. Flash has noticed that electricity usage has gone way up at the Great Lakes Science Center, and he wants to figure out why. The video is going to contain inbuilt pause points, so that will be still screens where, with narration suggesting that the viewer pause the video and follow along in Building OS. And also, for some visual interest, a few simple vector animations of a style similar to the ones found in the presentations we looked at a few weeks ago that are active in the Great Lakes Science Center at the moment, like the electricity and water use ones. It's going to feature Detective Flash somewhat. This is a first test I drew of him. Hasn't been updated since Rowan gave me some advice on the model, but at least it's a step of the process. Can you please advance? Nick.
So here's an example from the Great Lakes Science Center. Now, as you can see, when Monday turns to Tuesday, there's very little, if any, electricity use. But when Tuesday turns to Wednesday, there's a whole lot of electricity use. we can start to look at these patterns and start and form the foundation for inquiry-based learning for teachers to then expand upon, to find real-life problems and to build problems and solutions to motivate kids.
And looking forward into future applications, our original video is going to be specific to the Great Lakes Science Center. However, it's going to be in a format that will be easily adaptable for use in Oberlin Public Schools later on. We're going to apply it to the GLSC and then figure out what worked, what didn't at some later date, and maybe this will be a problem for future iterations of this class, but we intend to have an adaptation of the video for Oberlin Public Schools once the new school that's fully integrated with Building OS gets up and running. And can you advance, please? Never mind. I think that's about it. Thank you very much.
So I'd like to thank our speakers today. Let's just give them a little round of applause for their work. And we're going to go ahead and open up the floor to questions. And I'll step aside and say, let's try to imagine, empathize with our audience here. So you've got Linda Arbogast, the sustainability coordinator, Elizabeth Meadows, an older city councilor, lifelong resident of Oberlin, African American, and you've got Diane Ramos, who's been working for the city for many years. I'm not sure what her history is in Oberlin, but she's been here for a lot longer than I have, which is 25 years. So these folks are all here. They're very knowledgeable. Try to put yourself in their shoes and ask the kind of questions of this group that you think they would be asking. Does anyone want to start with a question? Go ahead, Reed.
So, Nick and Gwen, I'm just curious how you feel that, or like, how you hope to implement this dashboard with teachers and such, like right now, with all the hectic situation that is going on in schooling.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Great Lakes Science Center, now conceding, we probably should have mentioned this right from the get-go, but they offer a drop-off program where teachers can drop off their students and pay a fee, and they have the in-person class experience, and they go through assignments all day, and we're going to be sending this video and this product for that group of students with that set of teachers at the Great Lakes Science drop-off program.
I have a question. So Hannah, Atticus, and Elizabeth, what grade level do you feel like this is for, and what's the lowest it could go? Is this going to be like mostly pictures or a lot of words? What are you kind of envisioning here?
Yeah, I can start us off here. Thank you. So I think like when we were conceptualizing this, and of course we don't have our finished product yet, so we can't say for certain what it'll look like, and we're of course still kind of toying around with a lot of these questions. I believe our initial goal right now is to have it at a level where, you know, K through second grade students can sort of understand the gist of it by having their teacher read it to them. And so really focusing on the pictures and just sort of understanding the general narrative itself. But that it will be at a level where third and fourth graders will actually be able to pick up the book and read it on their own. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that, but that's what we were thinking right now.
if I could follow up with that question. So I understand, the dashboard is used in the schools in various ways. I kind of get the sense that you're trying to use this to sort of like be the first introduction for kids in the younger grade levels, where maybe it's harder for them to kind of interpret the data side of it. But if you could say a little bit more about how you see this sort of feeding into some sort of integration of dashboard in the curriculum generally, or what kind of opportunities you see for kids in different grades maybe interacting with each other, because I understand that's one of the goals of this sort of movement towards fewer schools, more centrally located, is getting more interaction between kids and stuff. Yeah.
I think one thing that could be useful in that is if like everyone knows about Wally and Flash, that's something that can kind of bring the kids together. Like it sounds like silly because there are these like cartoon characters, but if someone in this class and someone in this class, I don't exactly know how Oberlin's run, but like next year they're together, they have something that they like already are familiar with in terms of environmental dashboard. And then we were also talking about creating alternate content that goes along with this, such as a Ask Wally, like an email that like the teacher could like write to one of us or to you, questions that the students have like after they read the book, and then we could answer them. So it's going one step further and actually like addressing any questions that the students may have themselves.
And it's possible you could even start a collaboration between a fifth grader who might understand some of this more and a second grader. So maybe the fifth graders are the ones that are responding to the Ask Wally or Ask Flash letters. So yeah, we envision sort of more like picture books, like coloring activities, or sort of more hands-on perhaps for the younger grades, but maybe a fourth grader or a fifth grader may kind of read the book to understand and learn how to read the graph and everything, and then be paired up with an activity where they're looking at the Building OS graphs of one of the new monitoring systems in their school, maybe the gym or something. And then they have to sort of ask questions, and maybe they track it throughout the week and see what kind of behavioral changes cause changes in the graph.
Yeah, to go off what everyone is saying, basically we're going to tailor our extra stuff, our discussion questions, and the coloring books, and asking to different grade levels, so that we cover the wide berth. Also, different studies have shown in the past of kids who have been educated by storybooks in this manner, going out of their way to spread that education to younger children and teach them what they learned from this book. And I would not be surprised if kids in Oberlin followed suit in that. And in that way, I can see that as another way in terms of kids becoming more connected via the storybook.
I have a question for the location specific folks. So, I guess I see the dashboard the most in the library and probably in IGA when I'm shopping. I guess I'm not quite getting what you guys are how what you're doing is going to change my experience of those. What's going to be different about the way I see dashboards in town? I'm just not really getting that.
Well, part of what will be different is that different locations, such as, for instance, the IGA, will be able to put up their own content that's related to themselves.
But don't they already do that? Because like when I go in there, I see, they've got stuff about what they got on sale. I guess I'm just not understanding how it's different from what I already
Yes, but that's also where, for instance, what we talked about with templates, because different locations have their own like content that they make and put on the presentations. However, they're not uniform, and some locations, such as the Bridge, have asked for help because they have had difficulty doing this. And so by creating these templates, we will be able to like create a stronger, not consolidated, like coherent look throughout the entire thing, and also make it easier for those businesses or other types of locations that are having more difficulty with doing so on their own.
If I can address this as well, I think the objective of the templates are more of, I think, because people will be managing them themselves for the most part, they're more of a casual instance of this, and to give people a sense of ownership and connection to their dashboard. But with some of the other things that we're making, what we're aiming to do is, especially in places where there is no content or very underdeveloped content, that's going to be the answer. But for places that even have content still, we want this new project to exemplify, I'm not just going to the IGA for groceries, and that's what this is. You know, you're being reminded that's what this institution means to the people who made it. We want it to be a present reminder of what this organization really wants to do for the community and what they do for the community already, in sort of a more conceptual, sustainability centric way, as opposed to I'm going to the grocery store and I see sales on the board, versus I'm going to the grocery store and I'm seeing what Leo Brado wants everybody to think about the IGA.
Yeah, if I could add something as well. So we're planning on like including the partner organizations and the other locations where there are dashboards. So say you're at IGA or the Oberlin Public Library, and there will be a slide that like has these other locations on it. So that can like get the idea in your mind that maybe when it says there's a screen at the bridge, and so next time you're at the bridge, you think to look for it. So that's kind of how we can connect the dashboard across the community.
Is there going to be some way that people can interact with it, or?
Yes, actually, part of what we're doing in partnership with something that a different team or that other individuals are working on is creating specific content that can be actually accessed through your phone, interactive content that could be accessed through your phone and viewed upon the environmental dashboard at different locations. And so I don't know the specifics about how it will work technically, but when you access each location's dashboard through your phone, it'll provide you different options of content that you can look at in the circle of different slides that each presentation has. And there will be also some specific content that you wouldn't, I believe, find in the main presentation that you can also find in this interactive format.
I have a question for the community calendar group, if that's all right. I don't mean to interrupt. It's possible I'm actually getting this mixed up with the developing location-specific content, but I'm pretty sure you mentioned in your presentation you're planning to collaborate with the Oberlin Business Partnership. Was that right? I'm just curious if you could like elaborate more on like what that collaboration will look like, and yeah, in sort of the process of that, and to kind of amplify how this will affect businesses in Oberlin.
Anoka, do you want to take that, or I'll take it?
Do you want to like talk a little bit about the Oberlin Business Partnership, because I feel like you know them a little bit better, and then I could also add on.
Yeah, so I guess our main goal with that is the Oberlin Business Partnership already has a long like email list and already has connections with obviously all of the businesses that are already in downtown Oberlin. So that was just kind of a social networking tool that we could use them as a centralized hub to reach out to these other people, especially because we are trying to have like free stickers and materials inside of stores downtown. And instead of going to each individual business and saying, hey, here's our project, and pitching it to them, we thought we could just pitch it to the OBP and then have them turn around and kind of regurgitate it. That way it would be like a much more streamlined process. Yeah, so that was kind of our general thoughts on working with them.
Yeah, and also if you look at their website, they have an embedded version of the community calendar, as well as other kind of events going on. And we kind of want to use it as a template in some ways, especially because they have a member directory, and potentially using some of those resources to see what other contacts we need to be networking with.
Other questions from people? All right, let's reassemble downstairs with our masks. See you guys in a sec.